Winners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye up, bye up. Let's get to the intro. Welcome back to the channel, and if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that the gun stays kicking. And I appreciate all the support, right? I'm very humbled. So, we talk a lot about Jake and Rebecca Haro. Jakey the Snakey and Rebecca Lumpy Butt Haro, right? It seems like they're the talk of the town. They get a lot of stories and content dedicated to them, because we want to see those evil fuckers incarcerated for the rest of their lives, or their lives magically gone away. But I didn't want to do that today. I wanted to talk about some new information that I got, and I wanted to talk about baby Emmanuel. Mijo, it's been 55 days since he was reported missing, and I believe even more days since he was murdered by Jake and Rebecca, right? On August 14th, it was reported by Rebecca Haro and Jake Haro that their son went missing in front of a Big Five sporting good. Ola did it, right? Rebecca has told the story in several different variations, and she continues to double and triple and quadruple down and claim, even behind the walls of a county jail, behind jail bars, that she hopes and she prays they find her son. She's allegedly put out a statement saying that Ola does exist and her son is still missing, and she hopes they find them. Bitch, what were you doing before you, where were your antennas at before you got incarcerated, when your fat ass was just sitting in your house all day eating Captain Crunch? Why didn't you get out there like a real mother would and start pounding that pavement, boots on the floor, boots on the ground, and start knocking on doors, right? Her story is about as fishy as some ceviche I had yesterday. It wasn't that good. Gave me chorro. Looking at Rebecca gives me chorro. Looking at Jake makes me want to do bad things to him, right? Now, I'll say this about these two monsters. They could care less about anyone else other than themselves and each other. And Jake is doing it out of a necessity so Rebecca doesn't put him out there on them streets. And Rebecca is doing it because she's sprung on this stupid, dark, stinky motherfucker, right? He just looks dirty, right? He looks like the motherfucker that got different levels of darkness on his back of his neck. Just moles and shit, just fucked up, right? Straight nerd. Now, I'll say this. It's been 55 days since Mijo's been missing. And I wanted to make a video dedicated to him, about him. It's unfortunate and upsetting when I think about his situation, how a child, whether dead or alive, is still out there, and it seems like nobody is looking. Everybody has basically come to a certain point where we realize he's gone. There's nothing we can do. But crazier things have happened. There's been people that have went missing for years, and I kind of wanted to tell you guys a story that was local to me in Merced, California, where I'm from, right in the Central Valley, and it was called the Steven Stainer story. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard that story. It kind of has a cold twist at the end. I'm going to kind of tell it. And this just goes to show you that just because we assume something happened based upon, the funny stories that Rebecca is telling, the inconsistencies, the refusing a lie detector test, the family all fucked up, not really speaking on the situation like they should. We all know Sylvia Haro, the sister, had her fat fucking mouth had a lot to say the day after, but she hasn't said nothing since her brother was locked up, right? They're going to stick to that story. They're going to put their muzzle on lock, and they're going to defend a child killer, a possible child killer, and a definite child abuser. Okay? Now, we sit here and we all say we know that Rebecca and Jake did this to baby Emmanuel. But really, when it's all said and done, there's an inkling, a chance that maybe, just maybe, baby Emmanuel was out there. Now, I know the Ola story she's full of shit. Literally. Chorro. You know what I'm saying? That piruja, that peyoya is full of it. Full of stories, right? Stories that she's seen on the internet or on the Netflix show. Jake, his word don't mean shit. He is a straight up convicted child abuser, and he shit. Shut the fuck up. Have nothing to say. That's how I'd be if I was. I wouldn't even sell up with him. As soon as I'd give him, just knee him to the face, and I'm gone. I don't promote violence, but that's just how I feel at this point. 55 days. Baby Emmanuel's been gone, and these two vile fucking creatures, these monsters, choose not to admit or choose not to speak his name, and the family chooses to go with the story and be enablers to child abusers and possible child killers. I use the word allegedly and possible a lot in the stories that I say because, you know, I feel like a very dumb ass, stupid individual if something took a cold twist and came out and baby Emmanuel was found alive, right? Now, we don't know what the detectives have. They must have enough circumstantial evidence to arrest Jake and Rebecca over the murder of baby Emmanuel and the abuse. But at this point, we don't know wholeheartedly. Now, we feel it. I feel it. You feel it in your heart? I feel it in my heart, but I don't know. So I'm going to say allegedly. Now, the story I wanted to tell is about a child going missing. And again, I don't believe Rebecca's story, but I'm not saying that, you know, one of the theories out there is that they could have possibly sold baby Emmanuel to Ola, right? They could have possibly, Jake wanted Rebecca to get rid of him because maybe Jake felt that she cheated on him or that was not his son. Because I'm going to be totally honest with you. After looking at the pictures, the several pictures that I've seen of baby Emmanuel, he doesn't look nothing like Jake. Again, his mother is half white, so he's very light skinned. And you know, kids come out all different variations of shade. You know, I remember my brother was very light when he was born, green eyes. I was like, hell no, mom, you did something wild, right? And later on, he's actually darker than me. So that's just how it is, right? Kids change over the years, and they start looking like one parent or the other, or a mixture of both. I could say baby Emmanuel looked nothing like Jake. So maybe Jake felt the same type of way. And instead of getting a DNA test because he's just a piece of shit and an asshole and a monster and a child abuser and possibly a child killer, what he chose to do was keep picking at Rebecca. And maybe Rebecca did das with someone else. I bet you that room stunk like a motherfucker, right? But he chose to bait her and push her into doing something possibly harmful to baby Emmanuel. Or they are so broke, GR only goes so far. I remember I used to tell my homeboys, hey, you want to hear a rhyme? What? GR will only go so far. So what are you trying to say? I'm trying to say, motherfucker, get a job. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So maybe they quite possibly, a lot of people are doing this nowadays, man, selling their own children. It's called trafficking. It's just wild. It's weird, but more stories are popping up, and I'll maybe be touching upon a lot of different stories concerning children, man. It's upsetting to some, but it needs to be put out there because we need to pay attention, especially those of us that are parents that have children that we are concerned with and we worry about. We need people like me and people like you that pay attention to keep pushing this narrative and being the voice of the voiceless. And that's what we're going to do. So that's a theory out there that they could have quite possibly did that. And that's probably a even more bleak existence than living with these fucking idiots and monsters. Or it could be something better for baby Emmanuel. In either case, I don't believe that's so. I believe he's dead. But I wanted to tell you the story because you just never know. I grew up in a Beechwood area in Merced, California. It's the outskirts of Merced. I fluctuated from that area to the west side, ultimately settling in the west side, the west, right? But I did live in the Beechwood area. And there was a family that lived there down the street, the Stainer family. And I remember I lived like 4 or 5 houses away from them. I would see them. They were a white family. I would see one of the sons. He was older than me. His name was Kerry Stainer. And I would see him, you know, around as I grew up. I ended up going to the youth authority. It is what it is. So we kind of gravitated and moved away from that area. But I remember the Stainers. I just didn't know their story until one day I'm looking at the Lifetime channel and the Stephen Stainer story pops up. Now, this was already years past me knowing them. And the story goes that this kid was on his way to school. His name was Stephen Stainer. And it's a trip that I even knew his family, right? And he was kidnapped. He was kidnapped by 2 individuals. He was taken by one individual. And a lot of bad things happened to him. He went through a lot. And it got to the point where the family was searching and searching and searching. And they kind of gave up. You know, years passed. He was actually literally raised by this monster, this older gentleman, to be his son, or his daughter at some time, at some points. Just a lot of wild things happened to him. Eventually, Stephen held on. He lived through the horrific trials and tribulations that he lived through. And then when this older gentleman thought Stephen was too old, and he trusted Stephen. Stephen was even going to school. He was going out. Stephen didn't know what to say. He did not know his name was Stephen Stainer. He basically broke his whole life down, and he thought that this man brainwashed him. He was brainwashed. This man told him, hey, your mother didn't want you. You're mine now, whatever. He believed it. He was a young kid. Eventually this old man decided to bring a younger kid in. Stephen seen him being abused and helped him get away. They got away. Stephen walked into a police station several hundreds of miles away from where he was kidnapped and said, look, this kid was kidnapped. He told the whole story about what the old man was doing. And he said, he's done it to me. And they said, well, who are you? And he says, I don't know, but I think my name is Stephen. Okay. There was a big story. They made a Lifetime movie out of it. And it was a trip because I knew who that family was. Well, there was a big reconciliation. The parents had given up on him. They thought he was murdered. They thought he was gone. Most people do. When a kid goes missing, you never really get him back. You never find him. But there are some situations where they do pop back up, right? So that's why we have to keep hope for baby Emmanuel. Even though in our hearts we know he's passed away, and in our hearts we want to see Jake and Rebecca convicted and face the harshest realities of prison in their life, there's always hope, and I'm not saying this to defend Jake and Rebecca. Fuck them, and fuck them even more, especially Jake, what I'm saying, for doing what he did to Promise, because he must suffer the consequences for them actions, right? And Rebecca, well, she's just a stupid ass, so she can go along for the ride. That's just how I feel. Any woman that says, my husband's a good father, a good man, he would never hurt a child after he abused Promise the way he did, well, fuck you. Double up, right? And Jake, he's got another thing coming. So does Rebecca. She's got it a couple times. But in the whole Stephen Stainer story, it actually ended sad and a little twisted. He did eventually come home to his family, was a little off, was a little different, never really acclimated to the family. Acclimated. He didn't acclimate to the family. And he was killed. He died a couple years after coming home in a motorcycle wreck on Santa Fe Road. I remember when that happened because by then I'd seen the story. He had an older brother named Kerry. Kerry got jealous because his brother was getting all the media attention. They were making movies. The family was doting on him or whatever. And so he ended up becoming a serial killer, the Yosemite killer, right, where he beheaded women and several people. And he's doing life right now in prison in the state of California. You could look him up. His name's Kerry Stainer. True stories, right? I remember when that happened, that shocked the community and the neighborhood. Like, what the fuck, right? But it's the truth. So that whole family just went through a lot of tragic moments. But the good thing about it was that Stephen Stainer did return home. So it's not far-fetched to think that baby Emmanuel could have been sold by Jake and Rebecca Haro to Ola, right? But I don't believe so. I believe we are 55 days and counting where a young 7-month-old child, whether he went missing or he was murdered, is not accounted for. Can you imagine waking up in the morning the day after your child allegedly went missing? I wouldn't be able to sleep. I wouldn't be able to eat. I wouldn't be able to think. I wouldn't be able to function as a human being, as a father. I'd probably die of exhaustion because I'd be out there pounding on every door, kicking in every door. It's just unfathomable. Is that how you say it? Unfathomable? Sometimes I can't say words, man, because I'm sick and I slur, right? But I can't even fathom thinking the way Jake and Rebecca are thinking. 55 days since August 14th when they reported baby Emmanuel missing, and I tend to believe it was even before that he was murdered or went missing. And these two fucking animals sit there in the county jail eating our food that we pay for with our tax money and sit there smiling and say that they still love each other. I truly hope they get everything they deserve. These animals need to be taught a lesson. Jake, for what he did to a baby Emmanuel, whether he sold me, even anyone that would even sell their own child. I remember I had to help a 14-year-old girl. Let me explain this. I've never told this story, right? So there was this chick. If you guys watch my other channel, I do a Superwood, man. There was a homeboy Roach. I met this chick there. She was a tweaker chick, kind of messed up in the head, wasn't all there. And so there was no way I was touching her with your shit, right? But she needed a ride. And so she was like, hey, can you give me a ride? She had a little studio apartment where her and her 14-year-old daughter lived. And I didn't know her daughter lived with her at that time. I was just going to give her a ride and drop her off, right? So as we pull up, I had a beat up ass Maverick. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those cars that's called a Maverick. It looks kind of like a Pinto, a little bit more of a sporty edition of a Pinto, right? But it would overheat all the time. I had to constantly pour water in it. And it was just, your boy was doing bad back in them days, right? But at least I had keys though. No license, but I had keys. So as I give this chick a ride home, it's right off G Street in Merced, kind of the ghetto area, right across from the U-Haul. The rapper GB, it's his neighborhood, right? She has this little ghetto apartments. We call it the Paisa apartments. All gang of Paisas there. They all field workers, man. They work. Cool people, right? Cool gente. But she lived in one of those apartments. Paisas were tearing that shit up, I'm sure. She didn't look bad, but her teeth didn't look good. And her smell was all bad too. She probably smelled like Rebecca's pussy. So anyways, I digress. I'm like, hey, I need some water. So she's like, come to my house. You can fill up a jug. I have empty jugs of water. Empty jug. You can fill it up with water. All right, cool. When I go in there, she has a 14-year-old daughter sitting there in the living room watching TV. So I see her. Who the hell's that? That's my kid. All right, cool, whatever, right? Fill up the water as I'm going out. Some paisas come. She's talking to them. Next thing you know, I could see her pushing her daughter out of the front door, like going. The little girl looks scared. And I see it, and I immediately, my instincts kick in. I say, what's up? You know, what the fuck's going on? She's like, oh, nothing. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm like, no, what's good? She's like, well, this is how we pay our rent. You know, we got to work. And I said, wait up, how old's your daughter? She said 14. I said, get in the car. She didn't even know who I was. I was like, get in the car, man. Get in the car, right? And I said, hey, nah. She's like, yeah, you're not kidnapping my fucking daughter. I said, bitch, you're a fucking piece of shit selling your child to these men. I'm looking at the price. I was like, what? No, me no bang. Me no. Mr. George, you better, because I'm about to Mr. George your ass right now. So they bounce because they don't want no smoke, right? She's screaming, but just slams the door like, whatever, take her then. I tell the little girl, and she goes, thank you. She's scared. She don't know me. So I end up putting the water right there. I'm like, just wait in the car, man. I don't give a fuck. We're up out of here. And I tell her, hey, do you have any family? And she says, my dad, but he lives somewhere out here, but I don't know where. So you ain't got no aunts, no uncles, no cousins, no nothing, because I ain't taking her to my house. Fuck that, right? And she was like, no. Well, there's a police station that's right down the street. So where she lived, this all was happening not even 2 blocks away from the police station. It's called the South Precinct. It's right in a park called McNamara Park. I drove over there and I fucking go. I said, I ain't going to the police station. I ain't snitching. I ain't doing none of that. I'm dropping you off. You do what you do. Do not walk home. I watched her walk in that door and I pilt out, man. Later on, Roach called me. He's like, damn, that chick is freaking out, bro. They came and they arrested her. She called me from county, wants me to bail her out, but fuck that bitch. She don't even give a good mama on. I was like, yeah, you're right. He's like, bro, I don't know what you said or did, brother, but you don't fuck me up a good piece of, if you know what I'm saying. I was like, yeah, well, whatever. I explained to him and he was like, bro, I don't get down like that. I was like, exactly. So I saved her, but I say that to say this, right? I've seen plenty of situations where evil people, man, don't care about their children. And to me, whether you're a child abuser, a child killer, if you don't take your kid a shower or feed them properly, you're just as bad. Straight up. I don't care. Look, 2 things I hate in this world are stupid and lazy people. And if you're too lazy to get up off your ass to walk your kid to that bus stop or change your kid's diaper or feed your kid or shower your kid, you are just as bad as Jake and Rebecca. There's a woman right now and a man right now looking at each other like, fuck, right? Change your fucking kid's diaper, stupid. Straight up. Don't wait till later. You smell it, you deal with it. Stop being lazy and get off your ass. You know what I'm saying? You're leaving your kid with the itchy butt, you weirdos. But we're talking about 55 days of Emmanuel missing, man. Is it possible that he was sold? Is it possible? The reason that they're sticking to the story is not because they have to come to the realization, Jake and Rebecca sitting in the county jail, that they're probably most likely going to do all day or at least 20 plus years, right? And for them not telling on each other, you would think something else is going on. Maybe they figure look, there's no body, there's no DNA, there's no anything. You know, we know what we did. They're never going to find him. Maybe if we just stick it out, we can get out. I don't know. October 16th, just 7 days away from today, they will be having that trial, and then on the 18th, I believe they would be having their pretrial. That court date on the 16th is going to tell us a lot, whether they're given a deal or what's going to happen. The 18th, I believe the pretrial will start unless they ask for a continuance, so we'll find all that out. But 55 fucking days. I woke up this morning and wanted to kind of do a rant video, not necessarily an update or breaking news. There's a lot of people that are like, there's nothing new happening. Well, this is what happens when you get arrested and you're in the county jail. The cops are not releasing anything else. They already feel in their investigation, they already have enough to convict them. So now everything else that's gathered will be utilized and will come out in the discovery in court. And of course, we know the discovery is kind of shielded right now. They put a restraining order on the discovery so that way you, me, and no one else can know exactly what they got going on. So we just have to wait, you know what I'm saying? And hopefully cooler heads will prevail and we'll find out some more information coming soon. But that doesn't mean we stop the good fight for baby Emmanuel. We need to keep his name alive every single day because Mijo could be out there really needing help. And quite possibly someone could actually notice and find him. So don't automatically assume that he's dead. I know I say that and I believe that truly. And I think we all do at this point. But there's always that possibility, man. They thought Steven Stainer was gone until he popped up. With that being said, let me know what you guys think. We're always going to continue to fight right here for the children. It's a free baby Emmanuel. Free him. Free him from what he's going through right now, man. He's still being tormented and abused as we speak. Maybe not in life, but in death until he is brought home and getting a proper burial, man. So what goes up must come down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and keep saying justice for promise and baby Emmanuel till the damn wheels fall off. See, I don't fall off, then come back, then fall off, then come back. I don't do that. I stay strong. Bang, bang.